I'm joined now by David Owen, Managing Director and Chief European Economist at Jefferies International. David, thanks very much for coming in this morning. When we look at the events of the last 24 hours, are you surprised by Angela Merkel's move to restrict short selling? And indeed, how much of this is a political move?
Well, it's certainly political, and I am surprised. I do wonder, though, whether they're planning on orderly default for Greece. I mean, Angela Merkel did mention it earlier this morning, and if you are thinking about Greece defaulting at some point, maybe you do wish to protect your financial institutions in particular against naked short selling. So maybe that is part of the rationale. But it carries on the tradition of European policymakers at the moment really shooting themselves in their foot. They try to make things better with the package announced. When was it? Just over a week ago now. It seems like ever. Events move so quickly, and now obviously they shot themselves on the foot again.
You say that. I mean, two very interesting things you've said. Let's take the Greek default first, because this is something that you've been saying for a while. That despite this $1 trillion package, etc., Greece is going to default. Yeah.
I think it's very likely next year. I mean, the maths simply doesn't add up. I mean, for Greece, next year they'll be faced with still a very large budget deficit, but also an outstanding government debt, which is still going to be very high and rising as a share of GDP, probably going over 150%. And also Greece will be stuck in the most monumental recession. So when it's just a question of time, I think. We always felt that this year Greece was simply too big to fail, but if Angela Merkel is talking about an orderly default, then it could happen earlier.
And you think she's simply putting the pieces in place for that?
Possibly. I mean, the financial institutions are so exposed to everything that's going on. I mean, I view the Eurosystem as a spider's web. I mean, everything now is so interconnected since '99, and financial institutions are highly exposed to everything else that's going on within the system, including, of course, holding quite a lot of Greek paper.
Now, you talk about Germany shooting itself in the foot. Clearly, they think that they're actually protecting themselves here. Yes. Why aren't they?
Well, I mean, one thing, will it actually work? I mean, a lot of trading is obviously done in other markets, namely here in London, but also in New York and so forth. But also, it's just exacerbated, obviously, the pressures in the market. I mean, there was this real issue the Friday before last about the interbank market freezing up and the bond market becoming highly, highly dysfunctional, which is why, obviously, the ECB moved and started buying government bonds. Just as they thought things might have been getting better, we can question that, but just as when they thought things were getting better, then they announced this, which obviously makes things much worse. The only little bit of good news, I think, is the euro actually is going down, and the Eurosystem needs a much weaker currency.
Can you see the ECB having to come back in and buy some more bonds?
Absolutely, yeah, they've simply made it worse, and we know now that they bought sort of just under 16.5 billion euros of government debt in the early days of last week. Obviously they were in again yesterday, they'll have to be in again probably over the course of the coming days, and yeah, it will just carry on.
Angela Merkel facing an awful lot of pressure at home. Just quickly, can you see Germany going back to the Deutschmark?
No. I mean, people are discussing it, but I think it's more likely Greece at this point defaults inside EMU, or indeed decides along with other countries to leave. But at the moment, I don't see Germany going its own way.
OK. David, thank you very much indeed for that.
Okay.